What do people think of teens listening to classic rock? Asks Emily, a 16-year-old out of Toronto. My friends and I like Led Zeppelin, and for the most part, older adults comment positively. However, we have encountered a few who've given us grief for liking their music. Jay, a 14-year-old female from Jacksonville, had this to say. Many of my peers don't understand why I enjoy the music my parents enjoy, and a few adults think I'm attempting to give the impression of maturity. The majority of adults, however, have no qualms about my tastes. I feel having a common link with other generations provides an excellent way to maintain communication. Here's Tony, 51, from Binghamton, New York. Some old gas bag telling you not to listen to their music is like a Slovak telling you not to like halupki or an Englishman telling you not to like tea. Kristen, 22, from Buffalo, New York. I was in Burger King once wearing a Beatles t-shirt. The guy behind the counter, in his mid-40s, looks at me condescendingly and says, quote, "Aren't you a little young to be listening to the Beatles?" I just laughed it off and thought, quote, "Aren't you a little old to be working behind the counter at Burger King?" Here's what we found. We're going to let two classic rock lead guitarists do the talking to ease Emily's concern about the uptight adults in her life. First, Stephen Van Zandt, he of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, Tony's consigliere on The Sopranos, and host of Little Steven's Underground Garage at undergroundgarage.com, which features old and new rock and roll and airs on radio stations across the country and Sirius XM. He states, "Number one, it's hard to believe someone would even say that. She's hanging around with the wrong adults. Number two, the 50s and 60s and a brief part of the 70s were basically our Renaissance period and had the greatest music ever made. It will resonate throughout our culture and inform our culture for decades and perhaps longer until new instruments are invented." He goes on, "She should tell those people they should be listening to new garage rock and not be so close-minded. Rock and roll transcends age groups, generations, and time. Rock and roll is forever, and cool is forever, and it has nothing to do with how old you are or what era you came out of." Next, let's hear from Rick Nielsen, lead guitarist and founder of Cheap Trick. Quote, "Kids today, just because they're supposed to like rap and hip-hop or heavy metal or goth, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to go with what people think," he said. "There's great hip-hop, great rap, and great old stuff. And there's crap hip-hop, crap rap, and crap old stuff." He continues, "Adults who say that to a kid must feel threatened. If someone likes something, keep your mouth shut and let the music do the talking. Don't try to force-feed anybody. That would make me want to listen more anyway. It's just reverse psychology. So yeah, parents, tell your kids to quit listening to Cheap Trick. Maybe they'll start listening to us." Jack, who's 41 out of Lubbock, Texas, asked, "My wife is in her 40s and until recently was never approached by lesbians in her workplace. They know she is married with a family, but now they are relentless in pursuing her sexually. She thinks it is rather exciting to be noticed. Not only are extramarital affairs wrong, but breaking up a family for your own ends is even worse. Is the lesbian community all about sex only? Dwani, 51 and a lesbian from Texas, replied, "As a rule, no. Yeah, we like sex, but usually it's about the emotional aspect. This is one of the reasons homosexuality makes more sense to me than straight sex. Women know what women like, and men know what men like." Here's from MG, 30, a female from Jacksonville. "You cannot judge a whole group of people by what some in that group do. My husband has been hit on by black women, white women, younger women, and older women. But I still can't conclude that all women are that way. However, sexual harassment by anyone, lesbian or otherwise, at work is against the law and your wife needs to report it. Work is no place to be sexually pursued relentlessly." Amy, who is 20 and a bisexual out of College Park, Maryland, replied, "Lesbians as a group are just like any other group, full of many different people with very different attitudes. If your wife is encountering a lesbian who seems overly interested in sex, I would attribute her behavior only to her as a person, not to all lesbians in general." Here's what we found. Did you catch the quote, "She thinks it is rather exciting to be noticed" part of Jack's question? So did Suzanne Westenhofer. She's a self-described femi-lesi comedian. Now, whether she could pass for a hot soccer mom in the school parent pickup line is entirely up to you. You can visit SuzanneNew.com. That's SUZANNEW.com. She told us, "I think his wife's encouraging this to get attention from hubby," said Westenhofer, who was the first out lesbian comic to appear on David Letterman and to have her own HBO special. Beyond that, she thinks Jack is kind of a jerk, although she used a different word. Quote, "He's taking a giant leap from 'a woman is coming on to my wife' to 'all lesies are evil.' Jack should be more concerned with making sure his wife's harassers are reported than generalizing about lesbian carnal preoccupation," Westenhofer said. Why some people make these kinds of assumptions may be driven by the fact that sexual orientation is the main thing differentiating gay people from straight people, she said. Quote, "So if that's the only thing you know about a gay person, you might hyper-focus on it." Sure, she said, some gay women pursue straight women, but to Westenhofer, they are often, quote, "tragic lesbians who aren't consciously going after straights, but instead are engaging in self-punishment. It's the lesbian who can never fall in love with a woman who's available thing," she said. Yep, I've seen that. For more on this decades-long, groundbreaking, cross-cultural project, visit youdaretoask.com.